I don't ask that. We don't. Occasionally, I will start an episode by just simply asking, "How the hell are you?"
Yeah.
But I don't do it enough. Like, so much of our correspondence with each other is like, when are we recording?
Did you pay the bank?
Look at the calendar. Okay, like it's all businessy stuff. So, but just like, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I am actually good. I'm having in our region, and you're in the same region as me. That is Argentina, and. No, we're not in Argentina. We're in Canada. But the weather is phenomenal. Like, it's getting up to like 18 degrees a day, and it's November.
Celsius.
And Celsius.
That's worth
good point. That's worth clarifying.
Which I don't even know. Hang on. 18 Celsius to Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that would be
64.
64. So, I mean, for November, I am just here for it. So the days are short, but they are warm-ish. And I've just been getting into a good show, and every night I've been watching an episode, and it's interesting. And I watched a really interesting film, which we're about to talk to. So, like, I've been watching it with someone. So, like, it's just been like a relaxing week. I've been having a good week. When work and the world can be so crazy, I've been able to relax, and I feel like that is a good combination to have as far as balancing life. And I am good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm looking at a chart right now. And it doesn't, like, Celsius and Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit just doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's not like the degree between Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same unit of measurement. And one just has its number shifted. Like a degree is a different sized increment across the two different systems. Did you know that?
I feel like I used to know a lot more between Celsius and Fahrenheit and Kelvin, and now it's a distant memory.
Oh, well, yeah, I know nothing about Kelvin, but like...
Yeah.
But like... so they're like way off. Like we just said, it's like 18 degrees here.
Sure.
Which is 64. But there is a spot where like the two of them meet up.
Oh.
Minus 40 Fahrenheit is minus 40 Celsius.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's so, and like, so freezing in Fahrenheit is 32 degrees.
Right.
And boiling is 212.
Oh, okay.
See, that's so complicated to me.
Yeah.
Celsius, freezing. What is freezing? Freezing is 0. You get down to 0, you freeze. What's boiling? Well, boiling's 100.
Right.
And you've got freezing and boiling and everything in between. And then obviously you can go above boiling, but that's, for your most common, like, everyday...
Need to know,
you're, and then you're below 0. Yeah. Right? Negative is below freezing. Whereas in Fahrenheit, it's not. It's like you by the time you get to 0, by the time they get to 0, we're at like minus 15 here.
It's complicated. And,
what are you guys doing?
I'm going to interject because we're already a few minutes in.
You asked how I am. I am well.
Before you answer that, I'm going to say we are the Movie Men podcast.
Oh my gosh.
I am Peter. Welcome to the show. And Brady is my co-host, and he's about to tell you how he's doing.
I'm good. I'm also enjoying the warm weather. I'm sore as a result.
Oh, in a good way?
Well, yeah. I mean, so for those who don't know, I also have a YouTube channel where I make some content from time to time. And yesterday we shot a video. I've got like 6 weeks left of my 20s. And I'm like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm like, what are some things that I don't know how to do, that I've never done? What are some experiences that I haven't had, that, excuse me, that I don't want to be 30 and have not done. And one of them, like one that was like just super accessible, kind of like really tangible, and like, hey, this isn't really going to cost a lot of money. I can just go do this now. Sure. Was like, I don't know how to skateboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never really skateboarded. I've like stood on a skateboard and like tried to keep my balance or whatever. But so anyways, yesterday we shot a video where a much more experienced than I skateboarder taught me how to skateboard. Or at least attempted to. So yeah. It was interesting. Like I didn't leave with the progress that I think in my mind. I was like, I think I was like much more like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, by the time the day is over, I'll do a trick.
Right.
That was the, and when I arrived, she also had like on her little list of like things to teach for the day. Within like the first 2 minutes, that list got thrown out.
Right.
I was like, okay, we need to teach you how to propel yourself forward. Because I literally, I like never, with like the exception of once for about 20 seconds, I'd never been on a skateboard. Right. So I had I had to learn that muscle memory of like, okay, this is how you balance on a board.
Yes.
And this is how you then shift your feet so that you can propel yourself forward and then shift your feet back into your balancing position. And this is how you turn without falling. And this is how, and so, yeah. But you know what? After only doing it for about 3 hours, I was like, I can feel progress.
Good
my
for you.
Confidence level, like enough so that I'm like, with a little more practice, I'm nowhere near doing tricks, but I could bum around town on one of these.
Good for you, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm
with
sore.
With that comes a whole opportunity of ways to get around. Because then once you can skateboard, you can longboard.
Well, I'm actually thinking because so she asked me, she's like, "Do you think you'll buy a skateboard?" And I was like, "Well," I said, to be honest, I was like, because I'm like, I don't know how interested in like doing tricks or like going to the skate park I am. Like, I just see it as, potentially another mode of transportation. I was like, I wonder if picking up a longboard makes more sense. I'm practicing on a longboard and just kind of street surfing.
Yeah.
So I might get a longboard.
Cool.
But I'm sore, not from falling, but from like just like leg muscles and core muscles, keeping yourself balanced and shifting and like, and not even like just because I don't use those regularly or whatever, but just because I think when you're first learning, like the first hour and a half, you're overcompensating. You're like overworking those muscles because you're not relaxed.
You've got a tense.
You're tense, stature. And so it's the same as like if you've ever like climbed a ladder and then done work on top of a ladder for like 10 minutes, and like it shouldn't be overly painful. But if you're like working at a height on a ladder, maybe you're not tied off. Maybe it's a little sketch which you're doing. But you're kind of working away for 10 minutes with a screwdriver or whatever on top of a ladder, and you get down and you're like sore, you're like your legs are sore and everything for like hours afterwards because you were just tense. You were just like hurting your muscles because of how tense you were.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my experience. Also, I no longer sound like I have COVID.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I'm back to sounding, I mean, maybe there's like a tiny little nasally left or whatever, but I'm like,
sure,
I'm out of the woods, I think.
I mean, that's good. And you're feeling better and you're doing more physically robust things.
And because I just had COVID, I'm in the realm where like, if I want to lick a doorknob, I mean, there's so many other things I could catch, but my risk of getting COVID is currently quite low. And that's, it's an
things are looking
feeling.
Up.
Yeah,
things are looking up.
So you mentioned a movie named. Did you mention the name? You mentioned we were going to review a movie.
I didn't mention the name, but I said we're reviewing a movie.
Yeah.
So we're here today to talk about Bandit, a 2022 film.
That was your opportunity to be like, we thought we'd revisit Cats and give it another. We didn't give Cats a fair shake the first time around.
I think we gave it a fair enough shake. As fair a shake as I wanted to shake.
Disclaimer, you should never shake a cat. That's not...
no.
Yeah.
We're here to talk Bandit, a 2022 film, which, for those who haven't seen it but are listening or would like a summary, it's just a Canadian biographical crime film. And it's directed by Canadian director Alan Ungar, starring various names such as Josh Duhamel, Alicia Cuthbert, Nestor Carbonell, and Mel Gibson. And it's based on the true life story of a gentleman named Gilbert Galvin Jr., who was the Flying Bandit and escaped from the United States, crossed the border into Canada in the 1980s, and robbed 59 banks and jewelry stores, all while being chased by the police and eluding the police. And just for some Canadian content here, he holds the record for the most consecutive robberies in Canada. Still hasn't been broken.
I know. Give me time.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you're having a bit of a crisis leaving your 20s, there's no better way to break out of your 20s by breaking that record.
Well, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like watching this film, I'm like, no doubt, and maybe probably even as a result of this guy, bank security, at least in Canada, is way different nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, it kind of is in so many, like I was like, I watched this and I thought to myself, if this were still the 1980s,
right.
I feel like I would now have a fairly good how to.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, and that was the whole thing though. And that was the reason why the Flying Bandit got away with so much. I mean, he did some really intelligent things, like,
of course, he was
doing
smart.
banks on the other side of the country and like all of this stuff. But
different jurisdictions, so there's no overlap, and they don't. Yeah, exactly. Picking your targets.
Yeah,
smart things.
In so many ways, the system, was set up in his favor.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because his disguise was never like, some of his disguises were better than others, but the disguise was never great. It was never an amazing disguise.
I would argue, like, I get what you're saying, but
no one would ever look at that nose.
With you that in the sequence, his first costume, the nose was kind of hokey, but really,
they get better.
Some of those outfits were funny,
but also, like, I don't know, just the whole, like, when he's first scouting it out and he's posing as like a branch, like a corporate bank guy, and he's talking to the branch manager, and he's making sure, he's acting as though he's making sure that the branch manager knows the proper procedures for if the bank's getting robbed. And really all he's doing is inquiring what are, like, he's trying to figure out what are the procedures. And it really is like, the procedure was just comply. and same as the procedures are today, like, certainly any retail job or restaurant, like fast food job or whatever, like, one of the first things they tell you is don't be a hero. If someone points a gun at you or a knife or, whatever, and says, give me the money in the register, give them the money in the register. Like, this place is insured and money can be replaced, but you can't.
You can't. Exactly.
So, you just say no silent alarms, and they won't press a silent alarm, and don't put an ink pack or whatever they called it in the money to trace the money, and they won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, like, and as soon as he had that, he was like, okay, so I can tell you not to alert anyone, and you're not going to alert anyone. And as long as I can disguise my appearance enough that I'm not distinguishable on these 1980 quality security cameras.
Which are just awful.
Oh, yeah. I saw a meme. Well, even today, I saw a meme. Like nowadays, I saw a meme not long ago that was like, this is a picture of Saturn from X million miles away. And here's a picture from a CCTV security camera. And it's like pixelated garbage. Like you can't make out. You're like, no wonder we're not catching anyone. But yeah, literally, I watched this and I was like, oh, in the 1980s, if you knew what you were doing and it didn't take much, this was incredibly easy to do.
Yeah.
And as soon as he caught on that it was incredibly easy to do,
he perfected it. And
this was something I said to you, I think, where I was like, I have no inclinations to rob a bank.
Just to be clear.
But I get it. And I think that there's not a person out there who would not be, if you found yourself in a position where you had done one, and you were in and out in less than 3 minutes, and it was super simple, and you had established that level of confidence that you're not going to get caught, and you're holding 20 grand that you did not have 5 minutes ago, it would be very hard for anybody to now go stack boxes or mill flour or make an honest living for half a percentage of what you would make in the amount of time that you're making it robbing these banks. I think it'd be so addictive.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. There would be the intensity and the adrenaline and the addictiveness of it. And I before we get into our initial impressions, I think you hit on a point that I really loved about the film is there's all these rich kind of character depth building elements to it, that it's not just this cat and mouse element. And one of them is just how this main protagonist is a victim of the system. Like, it's not just out of pure greed. Like, he is literally at his wit's end. He doesn't even have the choice of working one of these normal, what I'd consider a normal job where he works for a half a percentage. Like, we see him, and he's like, because of the recession at the time, he can't even get a job below minimum wage washing dishes. So like, it was just he was between a rock and a hard place. He didn't even have the choice of doing something right or wrong. It's just he had this opportunity and he took it. And then maybe it got to a point where he could have done something else, but then at that point, why would you? Right? Like, why?
Well,
and I think one more thing I just want to say, and then I'll give it back to you. The wild thing that you're outlining about how, hey, this system is different, it was the Wild West as far as security and like, getting caught, and it is. And what I find wild is when I watch Catch Me If You Can from 2002. That's set in the 60s. So for me, when you see these gaps in the system where there's flaws and, people like the character in that film really just ran wild and did what they did, I go, yeah, but that was the 60s. Like, that was decades ago. Security and law enforcement has just changed tenfold, and it's just a different system. When I think about the 80s, yes, it's changed dramatically, but the 80s isn't that long ago. Like, that isn't decades ago. It's a couple decades ago, but it's not like, I think it's just wild, and maybe it's just because we're getting old and maybe that's part of it, but it's just a wild thing that like it's just wild that it's quite recent as far as the context of when this occurred, that's just a fascinating part of it too. I think,
and also, by the way, thank you for apologizing for not letting me interrupt you. Just don't let it happen again. I think that, so I also got the impression, and they don't necessarily delve into this, but for some reason I got the impression that he wasn't super qualified for a lot of things. Right? Like, but like, he didn't he's not going to go be an accountant because he probably doesn't have the schooling for it.
For sure, but even the jobs he wasn't getting, like, it was like being an extra hand in a kitchen.
Yeah, but definitely, like, his options were super limited. But I think, you know what? It's the 80s, but I think it was just like, if you could find the right crime and the right method of achieving that crime, I think something would be almost just as plausible today. Because I think what this is a scenario where we have all these systems and all these protocols in place, but they don't account for the bizarre and the ludicrous.
Right.
And the fact that someone using such a simple method could rob multiple banks in one day is so bizarre and so ludicrous that when you're putting these fail-safes in place, those are things you just don't account for because it's never happened before. Nobody's done this because why would you and how could you? And it's just not in the realm of things you protect against because no one's like it hasn't been something that we've had to learn from and do before. So I think like much like the Catch Me If You Can thing, right, with his checks and his like whatever else. I think if you could now, certainly because that guy did it and it's this big famous story now, you wouldn't get away with that today. But I think if you could find something that hadn't been done and was clever enough and simple enough, had so few moving parts, because once you add moving parts, there's just room for missteps and things getting screwed up and right? Like ultimately Gilbert's downfall was as soon as he deviated from what he was used to doing, right? He takes on this jewelry job, and more importantly, the biggest and most unpredictable moving part is a wingman.
Yeah.
So as soon as he complicated his system, there was more room for stuff to unravel. I think
more
had
pieces.
he just stuck to the way he was doing it, he probably could have gone on much longer. So I think if even in today, I think if you could find a crime that you could commit simple with few moving parts and it was clever, then I think you could easily get away with it because that's not something that anyone's done before. And so we're not protecting against that. We're protecting against the things that we think are most likely to happen. Anyways, initial impressions. So we've mentioned Catch Me If You Can, which is a film that we reviewed with Emily
almost 3 years ago.
A long time ago. And a film that I wasn't super hot on. Like,
no.
And I think it's a premise that I don't resonate with. The cat and mouse heist. On the run from the police thing. Like even The Fugitive. I recognize that The Fugitive is like Hollywood royalty as far as films and Hall of Fame. Like, it's an iconic, high regarded film. There's like a couple hundred movies that I would sit and watch before I would watch The Fugitive again. And so I think if you were to just give me the premise of this film on paper, don't show me a trailer. Just tell me, and maybe don't even tell me who's in it. Like Mel Gibson was certainly a draw for me. Alicia Cuthbert, Josh Duhamel. These were all draws for me. But I think if you were just to say, oh yeah, it's a story about, and also it being a true story was certainly a draw for me. I love true story movies. But if you were just like, oh, it's a movie about a guy that robs banks, and there's also a side story going on where the investigators who are trying to track him down are running into roadblocks and funding issues and so on and so forth. Me personally, that wouldn't resonate. That wouldn't be something that I would get excited about, right? Because I would be like, oh, great, another Catch Me If You Can. But even just in watching the trailer, I think there's enough, unlike Catch Me If You Can, there's enough humor and heart and just kind of like real world relatability, motivation that you could empathize with, injected into this film, that it sets it apart and it becomes not only an entirely different experience for me, but one that is very enjoyable. I very much like this movie. I very much like the soundtrack, the action, the script, like just the way the whole thing is laid out. I think it's something we've talked about a lot. I think this movie's well paced. I think it's the perfect length for what it is. But because, we've talked about, there seems to be this mentality in Hollywood, like the fans of Hollywood, when movies come out, we go, oh, it's a 3-hour movie, it must be really good. Well, no, a long movie doesn't mean a good movie. Just like a short movie doesn't mean a bad movie. A short movie doesn't mean a good movie. Like each film has its perfect, each film has its sweet spot based on the DNA of that film, right? There's the right runtime for each film. And I think that this film is edited very well and hits that sweet spot.
Yes.
But because I love this movie so much, and because, and maybe this is something we'll get into, we have it on good authority that there is a lot that was shot.
Right.
That is not in this, that there are deleted scenes. And that, although there will never be, I don't think we'll see hashtag release the Ungar cut.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen.
Sure.
Oh man, if I got my hands on a director's cut, an extended edition of this film, I would gobble that up.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. What are your initial impressions of Bandit?
I'll obviously mirror some of the stuff you said for sure, and I will go on record saying I'm the opposite of you. When we reviewed Catch Me If You Can, that was my kind of film. That was in my top 10 at the time. I've rewatched it recently, and it's still a decent film. It's still a good film, but it has some holes. It's not perfect, but definitely Bandit. I am just really riding the high of it's very well done. And I wasn't going to bring up this quote, but since you mentioned the pacing, I'm going to bring it up. From the National Post, Chris Knight said, the Toronto director, Alan Ungar, keeps the pace fast and light. Despite a 2-hour running time, the film never lags. And, you and I sometimes quander, I also don't dislike long movies. I don't dislike short movies. But sometimes I can be a little critical of saying, was this movie needing to be this long or needing to be this length? And I feel like this was a movie that I didn't actually realize how long it was till I was done watching it. And I went, oh, like that was a solid running time. And I didn't even clue into that at all because it was so well paced. That's the point you made. It is very well paced, well cut. It's so easy to get hooked in and just watch. So yeah, the pacing is perfect. And just as an example of filmmaking, good filmmaking and the pacing, I feel this film, my initial impression is, this is a story that's truth is stranger than fiction. And that's interesting. But there are so many films about true stories that are not good films. That is just a fact. And what I will say about this is a truly incredible story, like the real life events, but it's also a truly incredible film that it does justice to these events, that makes it an interesting watch, that brings it to an audience that goes, that was interesting, and really brings it to life. So my initial impression, truth stranger than fiction doesn't always make a good film. This case, it really did. I was drawn in by some of the acting roles. I really love Nestor Carbonell as an actor, and him as a police officer was fantastic. And I have to say, we'll get into Mel Gibson later, but this is one of my two favorite roles, not movies, but roles Mel Gibson has performed. He's really hit his stride in this. And the other movie, we'll talk about it later, playing Santa Claus, was one of my other favorite recent roles of his. And the last thing I'll just say, the soundtrack is great. For this film, they really went all out. They really got some good 80s tunes that they were able to use, and it really set the the scene of this period piece set in the 80s. And there were just some moments that really, really were magnified because of it, whether it was the Boy George or whether it was just the climax with Oh Yeah playing at the end and building the tension, going to do the London gig and returning home and the police in pursuit the whole time. Like that intensity with that music and the different musical components throughout was just incredibly well done. So yeah, I would say a resounding great film. Yeah.
All right. Sweet. I agree. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have a certain order you'd like to go in? Mine will just be kind of, I just want to kind of discuss different elements of the film, and it's more just kind of topical versus, let's talk about this, talk about that, let's talk about the, anywhere you'd like to take it, I guess I should try and ask.
No, I mean, we can just break it down category by category. Do you want to start with the music?
Sure, yeah. I kind of tip my hand, like just the best kind of representation of how good the music was in the climax of the film. And in other places, like it was used, the music was used in cinematic ways to amplify scenes, but it was also used in ways that they really made some interesting character development and some character advances. So what I'm hinting at with that is there was that sequence with Mel Gibson, and he's watching Boy George singing. Is it Karma Chameleon? And I loved this rant by Mel Gibson, where it starts with the music video, then it goes into him ranting, and he starts talking about, this music these days, it just doesn't have the same oomph that it used to. I went and saw Sinatra, and the place was packed. I couldn't even see Sinatra's tie, but that didn't matter. You could just, once he started singing and performing, you could just feel it. And I just loved that music leading to having this character kind of come off the screen, so to speak, and be a bit more developed. And I loved this kind of like this rant that he went on, because it just gave this imagery of this concert. It gave more into the insight and disgruntled of this character. But I loved it because it's almost ironic, because this character in the 80s was referencing music from the 50s and 60s and how music has lost its way. And I know people firsthand. I've had conversations with people who lived their youth, adolescent years in the 80s, who see the same exact thing now about Boy George and about the 80s, saying, oh, compared to now in 2022, music has lost its way. You could go see Boy George and you didn't even see what color his shirt was, but when he started singing, I think it's just funny how just as humans, music or something that we like was always better in the past and it's not as good now, and it always comes full circle. And so there's just something really nuanced about that rant, and it all started with the music, and I just loved it.
Oh, and at some point in the last 2 weeks, I've ranted about how late 90s, early 2000s, like the sort of the pop punk, look, you had all these boy bands that were like, but not like boy bands like NSYNC, but like boy bands that were like Fall Out Boy and Simple Plan, and just that like punchy sort of rock era that we had. And I was like, man, nobody makes music like this anymore. So yeah, it's totally but I would also fall into, like, I was not around listening to music in the 80s. But yesterday, driving home from making that video, I was rocking out to an 80s playlist. And I was like, There's not a bad song. No, I mean, a part of that was the playlist, maybe. But I was like, this is a wide-reaching playlist, and there's not a bad song on here. So, it is. It's funny. It's funny to hear him trashing 80s music.
And I know we're supposed to be talking about the music, but that musical scene with Mel Gibson, I just loved Mel Gibson in this movie. I'm sorry. And just like he really embodied you just saw his character coming to life in that. I think that's kind of where it came out for me, was where you just saw him kind of sitting at booths before and being the tough guy, and then that is the first scene where you really kind of start to explore that character, and I was all for it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we're gonna jump ship here.
Yeah,
Mel Gibson's character in this, Tommy Kaye, could have easily been sort of a 2-note character, or a 1-note character, where he's just the guy in the booth. Yeah, he's got some criminal stuff going on. He's got some capital. He's, and that's it, because that's really all. Like, you could have just done that, and it still would have worked. Like, you would have known everything that you fundamentally needed to know, in order to progress the story. Yeah. But all these little sort of side notes that Mel Gibson gets in this, whether it be us discovering that he has a daughter. Yeah. Right? He's a family man.
To a degree, yeah.
To a degree. That he's got his own, and it so you start questioning some of, what are his motives for doing this? Right? Is he just evil villain underworld scum, or is he, he's also got a mouth to feed? Right? Yeah. And so there's it's so many, and then and the stuff like him talking about the music and even like the nuances of his performance when Josh Duhamel first comes in and approaches him after he's been kind of roughing up someone who's neglecting to make payments. And Mel Gibson is just kind of like, he's a little awestruck. He's like, I'm sorry, who are you? How did you get in here? Like, and so, I for a long time now, I've been an unapologetic Mel Gibson fan. Sure. Has he done some shitty stuff? Yes, we all have. Sure. Do those shitty things and saying those shitty things tend to carry a little more traction when we're a massive public figure? Sure. Right? Would people, would you and I run the risk from time to time of getting canceled or having some bad press if you and I were suddenly thrust into the public spotlight? I'm guessing so, right? Like there's things you say or things you do or things whatever that when you have millions of eyes on you, it makes the news and it becomes a bigger deal and everyone talks about it and so on and so forth. Having said all that, I'm so glad to see Mel Gibson just back. Yes. He's just back.
Yeah. He's back.
He's back on the scene. He's making arguably better content than he's ever made before. I've talked about loving him as a director, right?
Yes.
Hacksaw Ridge.
You have. Yep.
Far superior film to Saving Private Ryan.
That's a hill you will die on.
Yeah. Well, it's But yeah. So Mel Gibson's incredible.
He's incredible.
Film,
and so
at the very least.
In this film, and again, the last two films I've seen him in are this, and then in Fat Man, where he portrayed Santa Claus. And we've gone on this show. I didn't like the movie per se, but his role in that movie was out of this world, one of the most unique renditions of Santa Claus I've ever seen. And so in this film, I think I want to piggyback on what you said. Yeah, it would have been really easy to make this guy a one-dimensional figure. It would have been easy to follow some tropes and make him a bit of a two-dimensional figure, but not like a hollow two. Every time Josh Duhamel mentioned, hey, I've got a wife, hey, I've got a kid on the way, warning flags went up in my head. I went, this is going to haunt you later. Don't leak any personal information to this Mel Gibson character, because he'll use it for leverage for you when he wants something from you. You know, like, I was worried we were going to go down the road of tropes of, you know, an antagonist, and, you know, when he shows up at Josh's door later on, I went, uh-oh, this is bad news. And I love how, you know, instead of following these tropes of either making him one-dimensional or, you know, having him turn on Josh, he was neither of those, and he had some dimensions to him. And then he also kind of just transitioned and was kind of like a really close uncle or even a father figure to Josh, who, you
gives
know,
him a
when
house, comes and checks on the family to have some, you know, have a beer out on the
family, and just is even giving some insight, saying, you know, in a few years, all my garbage will be on the side of the road, and that won't matter. And maybe you should focus on things that do matter, and just, you know, don't burn yourself on the way out by trying to do one or two more jobs. Like, quit while you're ahead, focus on what you should focus on. And so I just thought, again, it added to the richness of this character that he became this role model figure, that he was just a rich character. And I think just with Mel Gibson in this and Fat Man, he's leaning into some of the more maybe grittier roles. You know, he was the young, you know, playboy earlier in his career, and then he's done some different content throughout his career. And these ones, like, he's just leaning into a kind of like a different avenue that I've ever seen him before, and I just loved it. So, point being, Mel Gibson was fantastic.
Well, and I think a moment that is worth mentioning that really, for me, cemented in my mind that Mel Gibson's character, Tommy Kaye, is actually a decent person, was the prison visitation scene.
Yeah.
Where he full on says, you know, you'll probably get a reduced sentence if you rat on the rest of us, if you turn the rest of us in.
Yeah.
Basically saying, like, you know, if I do jail time to get you a reduced sentence, I'll understand. Mm-hmm. And Josh Jamal's character is like, no. You know, he has his Vin Diesel moment, and he's like, that's not what you do to family. And it just, like, but you're like, wow. Like, what a decent, because I think that, you know, and maybe if I have a criticism of the movie, it would be, and I mean, maybe these were some scenes that were shot, but it would be nice to see, because it almost seems like Tommy Kaye comes to genuinely care about Gilbert.
Yeah.
And like maybe one or two more scenes that just kind of like delve into that and sort of show that connection form. Yep. But yeah, no, he's such an interesting character. Yeah, like and played to perfection, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. Touching on the music again, and, you know, I like 80s music. You know that. It's not a lot of the listeners would know that. But staying objective here, one of the musical components that I thought was really well done in this film was would it be a montage? I don't know what you'd classify it, but the bulk of watching all these different heists go down in the middle of the film to music of the time. And, you know, I forget which song it was, but I feel like, again, there's a tempo that this film really had a strong suit of, and it's so easy, like 59 burglaries, you know, obviously you never show them all, but even this could get bogged down a little bit with some detail of like, okay, how do we keep our tempo and pace? But we also want to show some of this and show it in a comedic way, and just with music involved, they did just that in a way that really conveyed a lot of the comedic and interesting points of all these heists in a short, concise manner, so that you see it and you're not bogged down from a narrative perspective or a flow perspective. So I thought that was really a strong component, that montage, and that really, again, just tied into using music well, having a palpable flow and pulse that you're following. So I thought that was a real strong suit of this film.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't like, because it's not a huge budget movie. And
No.
I honestly, like, when you listen to the music in this movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
One would ask the question, how was there any budget left
Right?
after you secured all of this music?
Yes.
Because it's
Oh.
so, like, it's, as far as like, holy cow, iconic music, it's not necessarily on the level of like a Suicide Squad movie where it's just like massive iconic hit after hit after. Yeah,
I guess not. But
Suicide Squad is like Bohemian Rhapsody and then this song and then that, right? But
these songs, Brady, like, these are like, they're not just backlist kind of, oh, right, I forgot that song existed.
This is not a
like,
criticism.
These are, oh, no, and I'm not, like, I'm just playing devil's advocate of, like, I get what you're saying. Maybe it's not in that tier, but it's not far off. Like, I think we're on the same page here. Like, just how like, they were able to get this music and then still have a budget to get the names involved that they got involved and actually have a decent product on the screen afterwards. I agree. Like, it's incredible.
The music approach that Suicide Squad takes would not work, would not fit the feel of this film.
Sure.
No, the music selection for this movie is, again, like, much like a Runtime is so tied into, getting it right is so tied into, well, what is the DNA of our film? And they nailed it. Yeah.
Something I found interesting, and I kind of hinted at this before, but why I loved Catch Me If You Can is it's more than just the cat and mouse game. It's a coming of age story. With this, we've got this cat and mouse element, but we also have an individual. Like, you know, he's going to become a father, and, you know, we've got someone who wasn't fueled by greed at all. It was just he needed money because he was going to be a father and he had no other choices. And my point is, there's all these other narratives that really fueled A, the main character, but B, by extension, the movie and what we saw. And I think what the most unique one for me was, and I'm curious if you felt the same because we are both Canadians, was having this story. And they alluded to this in the film, the story of the American dream, but it taking place in Canada. And so it was so surreal for me to watch because it's taking place in a time, and, you know, there's some familiarity of like, okay, there's Ottawa, there's our capital, there's Vancouver, a city that, you know, I've never been to, but I'm familiar with and I know what it looks like. And so there's this familiarity of the location and where it's set, but it's interjected with, like, there's like here, I think it happened at least twice, but where they would have the U.S. presidential sound bits of the president of the time talking about the economy or talking about this and talking about that. And so it's just a very, like, interesting blend of familiarity, but remembering, oh, right, like, this is the American dream just told in a location that I'm familiar with. And it's something that I've never really seen on screen before. And it's so niche, it's so out there, but I thought that was just really interesting to me.
Yeah, and showing the US president was definitely the way to go for two reasons. One is it makes sense because Gilbert is American.
100%.
And so those are, you know, even though he's living in Canada, those are probably the politics that he's following and he's interested in, and so on and so forth. And also, again, just like showing archival footage. That's one of the things about Canada. Like, even in Canada, we are strangely more fascinated. And maybe this is Hollywood. Maybe this is the movies. Maybe, I don't know what it is. But we are strangely more fascinated, for the most part, in American history than we are our own history. So I think, at any rate, showing archival footage of a Canadian prime minister, it just doesn't have the same pop, right? It doesn't have the same, you know, even most Canadians most Canadians nowadays would probably be looking at 1980s prime minister footage going, who's that guy?
And I think And listen, I don't have a political science degree. I'm working towards it. No, I'm not. But I speculate maybe like today I've got two kids, and there's the younger one and the older one. And the younger one grew discontent with what they were doing, and they wanted to like look over the shoulder of what the older one was doing. And I wonder if some of it is that too. Like, you know, we've got the US, we're kind of like the little sibling where and maybe like you said, it's Hollywood feeding into that. Maybe it's Hollywood telling us that's what it's like. But maybe that's part of it too, is just maybe we've always just been more curious and it's just the little sibling rivalry. I'm not sure. I know what the solution would be to that as a side note. We need to get a film about Canadian history and blend in some secrets to it and have Nicolas Cage unravel these secrets.
Yeah, that's the only...
There's
a treasure map on the back of the Canadian Charter of Rights. That's...
I thought you were going to say like on the back of a Tim Hortons cup or something.
Or that. Either way, it's career suicide. I mean...
Listen, come on. I think there's legs. It's got opportunity to go.
Okay. Well, you let me know.
I'll text him. him. Okay. So I will just say quickly, I am a Nestor Carbonell fan, and we haven't really teased this enough, but we will be having an episode coming up with a special guest related to this film. I'm not sure how you wanted to drop, like if we just start dropping that, or if that's something you wanted to reveal at the end. I'll leave that to you. But
I think the best approach is probably to say, hey, we interviewed the director of this film.
We interviewed the director of this film, and it's something we were very excited about. But B, just the stuff, the interesting stuff that we heard, and we won't get into that. That'll be
we
for
probably should have
that episode's for.
We probably should have recorded it so that we could.
You said just to keep it loose and fluid, and
I didn't know.
I just, with the red light flashing while we were talking, I just wouldn't have been able to focus. So,
no.
Yes, we have Canadian director Alan Ungar in an upcoming episode where we actually talk about his experience directing this film. And the reason I brought that up was one of the things we talked about was Nestor Carbonell. I'm a big fan of his. So that was one of the reasons I was interested in this film. And I just loved the character that he portrayed, that detective. I've seen him in a lot of different roles. I think one of the most exciting things that Alan revealed to us was Nestor appears like a very genuine, sincere human being in the roles that he portrays on screen. And Alan just said, yes, that is exactly who he is. And I think, sometimes when we have people that we admire in the media, and sometimes maybe they aren't exactly who they appear to be, which is fine. People need to be who they are. But just, I think there was something satisfying about that to me, to realize he was who he seems to be. But my point is, he played an incredible detective. There was a whole bit where he was playing arcade games and video games at the end, and I didn't know I needed those scenes until I saw them, and I was like, yes, that was great. But I just felt he was great. He was a very good counter to Mel Gibson at times, because he really doesn't have much screen time with Josh, because they only really cross paths at the end when he's
chasing him.
He's chasing him, yeah. So more of his on-screen was with his peers, his police officers, and Mel Gibson. And so I thought for that, he was just great in that role. He played he really had a good chemistry on screen with Mel. And I loved everything about that role. So and they also made reference of his eyeliner, the whole running bit that he has in a lot of his work. So I loved that, and I appreciated that as well.
Well, and so speaking to the writing and the dialogue in this film.
Sure.
The conversations, the quippy little taking shots at each other, hostile conversations between Mel and Nestor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'll be back with a warrant. And Mel Gibson says, okay, I'll assume the position. Here. And and just these and Nestor sucks at this video game and loses and eat your money, like just a bunch of he doesn't care, he doesn't give a shit about this guy or want this guy around. He's, he's like feigning concern. And the one line in this movie, well, I mean, lots of lines made me laugh, but probably the line that made me laugh the hardest is as that scene's ending and Nestor's walking past and sort of out of the bar. Mel Gibson again with the sort of running gag of, we're talking about the machine, we're talking about the arcade machine, but we're not really. And Mel Gibson says, "Looks like a loser to me." And I was like, it's such a smart, well-written line and so well played in that scene. Oh yeah. Yeah. The writing, the dialogue in this film is incredible.
I'm going to take this opportunity then to hop on a couple things that I found funny. And I agree, like that was one. And there were just so many moments where whether it was the witty dialogue or just something kind of written in a funny way. And so just as a line where Josh goes to Mel and, he says, "Hey, let me pull this heist and you can lend me the money and here's our rates of what we'll do." And then he starts talking to Mel about, here's the flaws in the banking system. And he describes Canadian bank guards versus United States bank guards. And he describes the Canadian bank guards as John Candies with mace. And
so good.
I laughed out loud. Like I literally did.
Another good Canadian kid.
Yes. Oh, see, yeah, that's why it was such a beautiful, like, it just, again, the American dream told within Canada. That line is just perfect. I loved the whole first heist and every awkward component of it, whether it's the awkward compliance of the clerk who's helping him, that he forgets a bag, that she finds a bag for him, helps him zip it up, and just like, that whole sequence was funny. So that was more a well-written sequence. And then even just the whole airport scene, the initial one, where again, just it's wild how things have changed. I know the 80s wasn't that long ago, but just even since 2001, hey, sorry, sir, you don't have to worry. You don't have to check any carry-on bags with you. They don't have to go through the X-ray machine. You're fine. And just before he realized that, when he walked up and kind of panicked and started rearranging the money in his suitcase, Josh kind of panics and he starts backing away and he says, I forgot that I have to go poop. And I just laughed out loud again. It was just such an awkward moment in contrast to what airport security is like now, and how just is weird as that was.
Oh, that guy would instantly be flagged.
Yes, exactly. Like the guards are like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, you go. Yeah, we'll still be here. And even when you get here, we're not going to check you that thoroughly." So just scenes like that with that or John Candy, or just, there were moments that, again, listen, maybe this is the whole point of our podcast, is just, as far as like what we're saying this film did well, the comedy adds to the tempo and the timing, and it just, without the comedy, maybe it is a bit too long. And it's got a good blend of interest, wit, and comedy. And I'm singing its praises.
Agreed.
Are you as big?
As actually, I used
how
to be?
should I phrase it? Are you shrinking? Okay, well, how I'll phrase this, actually, I'll change how I'll phrase this. Who was your favorite cast role? Because Josh is getting praise beyond praise, and rightly so. People are saying this might be his best career, or his best role of his career thus far, and that he's been able to flex his ability. Alicia Cuthbert was great. I've talked about Nestor. We've really harped on Mel Gibson in a good way. But like, who for you was the standout role, as far as you, like, what was your favorite?
Oh, that's tricky. That's hard.
It is, and it's in a good way.
Yeah, because there's so many great. Like, it's such a star-studded cast in a way. Oh, geez. I've talked about loving Mel Gibson. Josh Duhamel is great in, well, everything. I'm gonna say it, and this may sound sort of odd.
Sure.
I'm gonna say Alicia Cuthbert.
Sure.
And part of that is because I think she's incredible in this film. But also just that, like, I'm such an Alicia Cuthbert fan, and
Sure.
I don't think she's an actor that gets enough roles like this where she's able to really stretch her acting wings.
Interesting.
You know, like she was incredible in 24. And you know, the teenage me certainly had a massive crush on her, especially when The Girl Next Door came out. And so yeah, no, I'm going to say her just because, like I said, I'm such a big Alicia Cuthbert fan, and it's just so nice to see Canadian talent.
Yes.
But B, see talent that I think is underutilized in movies. Really get that opportunity to get in there and show her acting chops.
I feel like if I had to do my initial impression again, which I won't because I like everything that I said and I still stand with it, but I feel like this might have been the Moneyball of acting roles. And what I mean by that is Moneyball is a 2011 film with Brad Pitt, and it's about a low-budget baseball team in the early 2000s that used analytics in a way that they could compete with high-budget teams like the Yankees, and they paid attention, and they looked for talent where others couldn't see talent, and they kind of dug it up for, you know, being able to compete and whatnot. And I feel like maybe this is the Moneyball of the cast Moneyball of a film. Like, we've got all these actors who, like Josh Duhamel, got the opportunity to do a more dynamic, creative role. So, like, he's been able to kind of, someone looked at him and said, hey, I think this guy could really pull this off. Let's use him in this role. And he flourished, and his talents just took over. Same with Alicia Cuthbert, with the point you just made. Same with Mel Gibson, where, you know, people for whatever reason may or may not like him, but in these roles that I've highlighted anyway, and I've perceived, I've really enjoyed him recently. So it's been the kind of taking all these actors who maybe just haven't had this opportunity exactly in the past, and their underlying talents have just been really discovered or rediscovered or discovered in a different way and been utilized in this project. Yeah,
no, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think there would just be maybe one thing that I would want to talk about. Is there, as far as in the would we change anything? And I'll say my thoughts on it, and I'm curious if you have anything that you would say, hey, you know, I would have this set in Iceland next time instead, or if there's any drastically thing you would change. I think this first point of the two falls into maybe if I was going to watch the director's cut, the concept that you floated earlier, where, you know, it's a long film, and so I completely understand why you don't include stuff like this. But just as a true crime fan and as a fan of this film, where I would have been okay with it had been longer just because I was drinking everything up, I just would have been curious into some of the aspects of how these detectives got their breaks, as far as, you know, how did they hone in on the costume store and kind of get in on that, or how did they hone in on Pembroke, where I thought Josh and his family were a little bit isolated and were a little under the radar. So, like, just aspects of that were maybe in the cat and mouse aspect. If we could have just had an unlimited runtime or in a director's cut, I would have just been very interested to get a bit more of that cat and mouse aspect. And the only thing I would then, I guess it's more of a rhetorical question, is at first I wrote down, is there a lack of character arc for our protagonist, for Josh? And the only reason I said that, and now I'm going to change my tune, but I will still ask it rhetorically, is, you know, even after everything he's been through, even after realizing that his family is the priority of his, And even after having this father figure, Mel Gibson, say, maybe we should just count our blessings and not get too greedy. And I just kind of wonder, what did our protagonist learn? But then I think that falls into, this is a true story, so I don't know if there was really much creatively we could have done differently, because there was a true story to tell here. So I think I was a question that I posed was, hey, what is our main character? How have they changed? How have they learned? Did they learn from their mistakes? And ultimately, the answer might be a bit no at times, but I think I'm answering my own question here. It falls into more, it's a true story, so we have to tell what was actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he needed to learn any, like, for the sake of the story. Like, it's interesting. So the real, I don't know if you've done any reading, but the real Gilbert, who has served his sentence,
right,
and is out now working as a truck driver,
right, yeah,
and is actually pretty good friends with the Nestor's character that took him down.
That's kind of cool.
Like, they're
I did
friends
not know
now. Went to the premiere together of
the
movie, right? So, like, I mean, I think obviously you don't do jail time like that and not learn something, right? Like,
true. Yep.
So, I mean, I honestly, I think for the sake of the story, like, it wasn't,
Yep.
It didn't need to be a moral story.
No.
It's just a fun bank heist, cat and mouse story.
I think where my question originated from was, say, where we watch Catch Me If You Can. They kind of zoom out at the end, and instead of just focusing on one kind of specific period, they say, oh, and let's wrap a little bow on this, and he's friends with Tom Hanks, and he did get on the up and up, and he works for the FBI, like all these kind of little things. And to the point of this Bandit film, I think I maybe prefer the ending of Bandit, in that it's a bit more of a raw, real ending, where it's, okay, we're not focusing on the big picture of what happened after he comes out of jail. We're focusing on this part of the story. And I think I just kind of liked it too, just because it really didn't glamorize it in the end. It was like, he served his time. He was in there for a long time. He missed those formative years of his children's lives, just things like that. So I think it's also coming to the point too, where, like, I think of my question, it's like, okay, maybe I'm just wanting a nicer ending, but that's not what happened.
It's just real life.
And that's just real life.
This is how real life works.
And I think after I asked that question rhetorically, I think I need to remove it and just say, that is the story that needed to be told.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe just my human nature that wants to see something happy, and that's not what we're here to talk about.
Well, and I mean, that's always, like, there's a pattern here. Like, this is a question that you bring up in a lot of films, right?
Sure.
You're always looking for, you as just like your movie viewing tendencies, you're always looking for what is that sort of character growth? What is that message? Yep. Where is the moral? Where's the lesson? And in real life, sometimes there just isn't.
Yep. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
But totally # release the Ungar cut. Like, I
laughed at it, like, not laughed, but I thought that was a funny joke at first. But for the point I illustrated as well, I would watch it. Absolutely.
I mean, it won't I'll tell you right now, it's not going to happen.
Yes, absolutely not.
Like, not only will that hashtag not likely happen, but I would be shell-shocked. Like, will we get some deleted scenes dropped online? Yeah, quite possibly.
Absolutely.
Alan hinted at that. But to actually, like, there's some additional budget tied up in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In recutting a film, adding in the scenes you took out, releasing it. Like, that's not as simple as pressing upload on YouTube. And so I don't see it happening, but God, I wish it would.
And I feel like it's also not the type of movie that really would fit that mode of like, hey, we've got the extended director's cut, right?
Yeah,
like, this isn't
we're
a comic
re-releasing
book
it
film
on HBO Max. It's going to
in
be
black
in
and white,
4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah, like no, I agree.
Ooh, but Bandit, black and white. Bandit, the noir cut.
I feel like, is there something that an average user could utilize to just do that on their screen?
No. Well, okay. Yes, but okay. Yes, but poorly. So, for instance, like when Logan released a noir cut, there was a lot of skepticism. People were just like, "Oh, okay, what you're just selling me a version where you've applied a black and white filter to it." And it's not that simple. Because you do have to, like, in order to make the black and white look good and not have details lost or things blown out or overexposed, it actually requires going in and recolor grading each individual shot. Like it's a process. It's not just,
it's not just hitting a button.
It's not going into Final Cut and applying a black and white filter. I mean, you could, and you will get a black and white version of the movie, but it's not going to feel like an intended to be black and white release,
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rank the 2022 film Bandit?
It's a good question. It's a fun movie, and it made me learn that a good con man is a good salesman. I'm going to answer my question like I always do in two halves. One, how much effort am I putting into this? And two, what is it out of 10? So is it bottom of the barrel? If there's no Wi-Fi at the cottage and it's raining and there's a VHS of it, would I maybe watch it? Next level is if it's on a streaming site that I already pay for, I'd watch it. The next level up is, if I had to pay premium access to pay $30 on Disney Plus, or example, would I do that? Or is it in the premium tier where I would get a babysitter, drive with my wife to the theater, pay $50 to get snacks, and devote a whole evening to see this in a movie theater? Where would I put that? I would put that in the highest, most tier. If I went to the effort of getting a babysitter and all those things I outlined, and when the credits rolled, I would have gone, what a fun way to spend an evening. What a good use of resources to get out and see this movie and just totally partake in it. So it's in the highest category for me of how much effort I'd want to see. As far as on a scale of 0 to 10, I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's a really good movie, and I did not hesitate at all putting it in the good category, and it's a strong 7. And again, I have a lot of good things to say about it. I've watched it twice now, and I don't know how I feel. You've said that you think it's better than Catch Me If You Can, and I honestly don't know how I feel about that. It might be better. I don't know. I honestly, it's just interesting. If you had asked me a couple years ago, is there going to be a cat and mouse film that's better than Catch Me If You Can, I would have said no way and not a chance in heck. And it's interesting that now today, I'm speculating, going, there might be. I actually don't know. It's that close. So I that's just, as a film watcher, it's fun to get another film that I value and that I had fun watching, and that's kind of in the circle of trust. But what did you give it out of 10?
I gave it an 8.7.
Strong. Very strong.
Super strong. And I don't, like I said, I don't typically gravitate towards this type of film. But it was fun from start to finish. And like literally 2 days after watching it, Brienne was like, oh, we're trying to pick out a movie. Like, what are we going to watch? What are we going to watch? And I was like, I would watch Bandit again.
Yes.
I was like, I will, because she didn't see it with me. And I was like, let's do it. Let's watch Bandit. And we ended up, like, for whatever reason, actually, I don't think we even ended up watching a movie. It wasn't like she was like, no, screw that. But yeah, that's where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, I just saw it and I'm ready for a rewatch.
It's interesting because I'm in the same camp, and I did rewatch it within a couple weeks of first seeing it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that, I had that same burning to watch it again, that same desire. And there were some key sequences that were intense the first time I watched them as far as captivating. And it's still interesting after just watching it so recently and knowing where this film goes, that I still was captured by these certain key sequences. And specifically the climax. Again, it was just, my point is, I'm just singing its praises. It really captured me. It was fun.
So fun.
Just say yes or no, or maybe blank or don't blank. I'm just curious. When you didn't see a movie and instead did something else, did you rob a bank with Brienne?
I think the only way I can answer that is by saying, so Pete, what did you watch this week?
Well done. Well done. Okay. Actually, let me get my list out. I think I've only watched one thing. It is, let me just confirm it. Yeah, one thing. I've started a TV show. It's a mini series, so it's only one season long, and I haven't finished it yet, but by all indications, I will be giving it a good review. I'm going to list some names, and there's a commonality between the show I watched and all these names, and I'll tease you with these names because I doubt you will be able to guess it. But what do Jessica Biel, Jessica Alba, Tyra Banks, Scarlett Johansson, Minka Kelly, and Mariah Carey have in common?
What do they have in common? They're actors.
I'll
wait, no. Hang on.
You're not going to get it. You're not going to get
hang
it.
on.
You're not. I just know you won't.
They probably all have Instagram accounts.
Maybe. I'll tell you what they have in common.
All right.
They have all either dated or have been linked, and a strong chance that they've dated Derek Jeter. I've watched the television.
Well, if that was, hang on. If that was the criteria we were going for, then
what?
They also have that all in common with me. So I don't.
Well,
like, I didn't know we were
that.
going, like, taking a personal angle to this.
You didn't. You had the chance to mention that.
No,
I wasn't
wait,
sure
that's
if you were
not
going
true.
to.
I have not dated Jessica Biel. I'm sorry. I retract. It was almost true.
Yeah. I'm watching The Captain. It's a 7-part miniseries. I think it's like an ESPN original, but it's on Disney Plus now. I'm really captivated by it. I think I'm 4 or 5 episodes in, and I'm a baseball fan at heart, and I'm also captivated or interested in Derek Jeter because he transcended baseball. He transcended sports in that he was this stoic captain who, like, just, whether it was on the field, he was a champion. He set so many records for championships. In some ways, people are saying he's the Michael Jordan of baseball. And so on the field, he's this kind of stoic, business first. I'm focused on the team. I'm a team player. And then just outside, like, I listed all these interesting or notable people that he's dated. He's got this kind of persona outside, and it's just, this TV series is really well done because it hones in on key baseball details and facts that I'm honed in on, but it's really delving into the personality of, as best as you can as someone who doesn't open up to the public, it's delving into the personality of who Derek Jeter was and how he was raised, and he was raised by biracial parents, and just different things he went through when he was growing up, when he was a professional in New York, and how things have changed maybe for people like him, and how he perceived things have changed or maybe haven't changed. So it's a really fascinating mini series that really hones in on a lot of things that I like, baseball being one of them, and just kind of the things that transcend baseball, but baseball connects us to. And so it's a really fascinating miniseries. I'm watching an episode usually every night, and I just can't, like, every night I'm like, ugh, I should go to bed, but maybe I should just stay up and just not get any sleep and watch the next episode. And it's just fun. After having the void of Rings of Power being done and looking forward to the next episode of something, this has really filled that void for me. So I've started watching The Captain. What have you watched this week?
It depends on where I left off last week. And that's the problem with working through these series. So I had watched Fellowship of the Ring. I know I told you about that.
Yes.
Did I tell you that I watched Two Towers?
I think you said you watched Fellowship, Two Towers. I made a jab at Two Towers being the best sequel of all time, but you had not watched Return of the King.
Right. Okay, yeah. So we still have not watched Return of the King. It just hasn't.
That's fine.
To sit down and watch a 4 hour and 10 minute movie, it's like
it's a commitment, and it's not something you could just shoehorn in between, eating supper and going off to do something.
Yeah. And I think I also said that I'd watched the first 3 Friday the 13th movies.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah.
Does that
That
ring a
sounds
bell?
familiar. Yeah.
I have now seen up to part 7 of the Friday the 13th movies.
Dang.
And I'm still not feeling any Oscar buzz. But in some ways they are getting better.
Good. Okay.
In some very limited ways. And I think that's maybe it, just like in this Halloween mode of like, let's watch not necessarily scary movies, but sort of like maybe something that's like iconic horror, spooky movies.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, much like any of these like 80s slasher series, it's like, it's so bad that it kind of is good and you just keep watching anyways.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Cool. Cool.
Wrap it up, sir.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Please check out our socials below. Like, follow, subscribe, rate, and review. We love it when you do that. Check out our Patreon page, merchandise page. It's ways for you to help support the show, help us keep the lights on, and it's ways for us to help reward you or give you some perks back for helping the show, whether it be for shout-outs, bonus content, video streams that we put on there, extra voting power, submitting voting options, because again, our bread and butter is you tell us what films to review. And check that out if you're at all interested. And until next time, well, I guess next time will be probably our Alan interview.
Yeah,
I guess that would be...
Look for our Alan Ungar interview.
Yes,
about
it's
this
something...
movie.
We were ecstatic and we're super pumped to join with Alan. And we are proud of the content that is on the way.
Yeah. I could not have ended an episode better myself.